See that actually took. Yep. All right. Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to the next session in the Illini Cloud webinar series featuring our friends at Education Collaborators. My name is Jat Pannu, Business and Operations Lead for the Illini Cloud, and joining us today is Alex Inman from Education Collaborators. I think your official title is Senior Collaborator, correct?
That's the title that we give most of our people. We're a really flat organization, but I'm also one of the founders of Educational Collaborators.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us today. And Alex will be taking us through some of the great things that they're doing. As always, this is an interactive session, so feel free to kind of chime in if you'd like via voice, or to enter something into the chat window, and we'll either take it in stride or kind of queue them up for the end. Again, these webinars are every Wednesday, schedule permitting, at 12 p.m. Central Time, and they're all posted to the Illini Cloud YouTube channel, usually within 24 hours of when the webinar is completed. The upcoming webinars, including Power My Learning, EdFi, etc., can all be found in the announcement email that was sent out earlier this week. So please feel free to refer to that, or if you have any specific requests for things you'd like to see, send them over to myself, and I'll work on getting those kind of queued up. With that, Alex, please feel free to additionally introduce yourself, because you gave a little bit there, and share your screen.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much, Jat, and very glad to be here. Just last week, I had the chance to meet several Illini Cloud schools in person at the Tech Feast. It was my first Tech Feast, which was a lot of fun. I've known a lot of the Illinois schools for a long time. I spent about 12 years in Wisconsin and 8 years in St. Louis, and so I was kind of on either side of Illinois, working as a tech director, and met many of my colleagues. It was fun to see some of the folks that I had worked with professionally at the Illini Cloud Conference. Let me share my screen, and I'll share my desktop and pop over to the slides, because I also want to show you something on a browser. So we're over here now, and put this into presentation mode, and make sure that you guys are seeing the screens. Jack, can you confirm that you guys are seeing the opening slide?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, great. So first, just a little bit about Educational Collaborators. We're a consulting, and we're a 10-year-old consulting and professional development group. A lot of our work is done through the channel. I think there are times that people say, boy, been around for around 10 years, but I may not have heard of you. Well, you may not have heard of us because we were being presented as somebody else, like either Lenovo Professional Services or HP Educational Partners. We partner with Google, Microsoft, Intel, CDWG, Best Buy, Lenovo, a whole bunch of folks, HP, love working with them. And so you can get our services through them as one of the as part of your purchase of hardware or a large scale initiative. That's usually where we enter. We really got into this gig because as a tech director myself for 20 years, it was frustrating that whenever I was doing something new and innovative, it was very hard to get the caliber of consulting and professional support that I wanted from the marketplace. And so initially, about 6 school tech directors, librarians, classroom teachers, we connected, and we said, well, let's kind of work together to help out schools and put that together as a business. And what we found is that it worked really well, and we enjoyed that. Now we've grown to about 165 collaborators in 39 states and 8 countries, and we really enjoy what we do. So 85% of those 165 people, they're full-time educators. So they're like you on this audience. They're tech directors, they're tech integrators, they're classroom teachers, they're principals, librarians. We have a few assistant superintendents and superintendents, and so and then 15% of our folks are former folks like that who still work as full-time consultants in the education space, but they're fairly recently removed. And then we work in these collaborative teams so that we can really meet you where you are, because what you need is not always just the skills. What you need is also the appropriate lenses. You need somebody who understands a small rural school of 500. You need somebody who understands a large suburban network of schools. You need somebody who understands urban education. You need somebody who understands Well, we work with some schools that are single sex, both public and private. And so those are different lenses that you need. So we work very much to bring that in. But what we've been trying to figure out is how can we leverage the consulting work that we have done, and that can sometimes be fairly expensive and very personalized, and how can we make that more attainable and more cost-effective for schools? And an area where we work in some of the change management perspective or in the audit perspective is helping schools measure what impact is technology having in our schools, and where should I focus my time and money to do that? And why do folks care about that? Why are folks thinking about that? Well, we do spend a fair amount of discretionary funds on technology. And a lot of superintendents don't necessarily understand what we as tech directors or tech integrators do. They understand it from the real practical level, but from the strategic level, they don't really understand it. And they do understand that we're a fairly large piece of the discretionary budget. And so CDE, Center for Digital Education, said that we were spending about $90,000, $95,000 per pupil on IT, and that's on the hard IT. That's not including staffing. So you add another, if you're at a 900 students to 1 FTE staffing ratio, which is kind of the public school national average, then you're really spending about another $70, $75 per pupil on staffing in addition to that. So if you're spending $150, $160 to $200 per student, that's a lot of money. So if you're spending that kind of money, where are you spending it, and are you getting the bang for your buck? Which is something that, as strategic leaders in schools, is something that you should be thinking about if you're not already heavily thinking about. In Illinois specifically, your federal funding has been relatively flat, and thus it's a slight decrease in the amount of the percentage of revenue that's coming from federal and state funding. So you're having to look at local sources, and local accountability is different, particularly if you're trying to get those bond issues. And so how do you improve your accountability to yourself so that, one, you're being honest about the money that you're spending, right, in terms of just sort of knowing that it's going where you want it to go. But more importantly, are you getting the value back for the money that you're putting in? And knowing that money is sometimes decreasing or at least staying flat, we're expected to do more with less all the time. And technology is becoming a bigger piece. Your budgets may not be going up, but the role that you are playing in more and more aspects of your school has definitely been increasing. So you're being asked and expected to do more and have a larger impact across more aspects of the school organization, and to do so with the same or less money. So you got to be effective. You got to be efficient. And how do you do that? So what we tried to do is create a tool that helps you do that in a very cost-effective fashion. So let me get back over here. So how did this tool come to be that we could help you with this? Well, it was initially brought to us by a professional association of tech directors. They said, hey, we need a benchmarking tool because what we know we're spending some money and having some impact in some areas that people are expecting different responses from, and what we need is some context. So can you create a benchmark tool for us that measures us against similar schools so that we can see how we're doing relative to others? So we may not be doing great in one area, but maybe we're really killing it compared to our peers. Or maybe we're patting ourselves on the back in one area, but we're not really doing as well as we should be doing. And so how can you help us measure that? And so they came to our organization because they knew that we have been doing this for 10 years and doing it extensively. And in fact, I wanted to see, there's one tool that we've created, one survey tool that we've created that's been used by over 1,000 schools across the country, and I wanted to see how much of it was in Illinois. If any of you have worked with a one-to-one readiness assessment, CDWG has worked particularly with Illinois schools in this. We noticed that about 50 Illinois schools through CDWG had worked on our one-to-one readiness assessment. So some of the people in the audience, either virtual audience or real-time audience today, may have participated in the one-to-one readiness assessment. That's a tool that we created, and a lot of our partners use that. So they knew that we knew the questions to ask, but it's one thing to know the questions to ask. It's another thing to be able to know how to structure that data and be able to benchmark it appropriately. And the next thing that we wanted to do was kind of go the next step and say, can we structure that data and leverage that data to employ predictive analytics to be able to help you figure out what are the pieces that you're doing that are having the greatest impact, regardless of cost. And what are the strategies that, if you focused on, would have likely the greatest impact in improving your overall performance? Well, we can do that, and we've done that at an individual district level. But what we wanted to see is, can we do that in a more automated fashion and do it at a radically lower cost? So that's what we were trying to do, and that's what we were asked to do, and that's what we've done. And so let me walk you through this, because the reality is, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, in order to do it at a radically lower cost, we need higher numbers because we need more data. The data is what allows us to create the high fidelity predictive analytics, and so we need a lot of participants. So, and not only coming to you with a, hey, this is something that I think you'd be interested in, it's also a symbiotic relationship. I need you. I need schools to be interested in this, because the more schools that participate in this, the more we help one another, and the more we can provide high quality at a low cost for one another. So let's talk about the specifics here. So who put this together? So there's myself. We also work with Jonathan Martin, a former superintendent. He's also worked with the College Work Readiness Assessment. So if any of you have seen that, that's sort of an alternative strategy focused on skills. And so working with Jonathan was very important to tap his skill set. Ann McMullen, former instructional technology director at Klein ISD, also helped build the standards for the Texas STAR, which is the technology-related skills standards for the state of Texas. So she really had worked with a lot of very different kinds of schools, and that's why we wanted her involved in this as well. Greg Jennings is the Chief Technology Officer of MondoBrain. MondoBrain is a data analytics tool. I'm going to show it to you in a little bit. And he's their chief, as CTO, he's also their chief data scientist. So he's a data scientist by training and by trade, and is their top data scientist. MondoBrain is a tool that was, you may be familiar with, like Deloitte and IBM Global Services and KPMG. These are global consulting organizations. MondoBrain was the data analytics tool, kind of compared it to like Watson or Cognos, if you're familiar with those, that was used by KPMG Europe. And then when the license became up, what they decided to do was, rather than renew with KPMG, they built a data analytics as a service, similar to Watson is today. And so they built this tool. But I'm going to show you why we chose MondoBrain in a little bit. And so their CTO worked with us on this project. Mary Lynn, who's a tech director who's worked at small, medium, and some pretty good-sized schools. And then Sarah Hannawald, who's the executive director of Atlas, which is the professional organization that helped us. We also had, I just need to give a shout out, I don't have their pictures on there, but also we also had Bill Stites, who's a tech director up in New Jersey, work with us on this, as well as Susan Davis, who is a classroom teacher, tech integrator. She's held a lot of roles in technology, and so we wanted her perspective as well. Some of you may already say, hey, we already use another tool out there to measure our tech impact, and we're already paying fairly handsomely for this. I'm not sure that I'm interested in something else. Why are you different, and why should I be paying attention to this? And so I wanted to discuss some of the differences between that other tool that's out there and then our tool, because to some degree we're still a response to that. Well, the first difference, and this is the minus rather than the plus, but I just want to get it out there, we're not as pretty. The reality is, and they're very proud of this actually, and they should be, their first big hire was an Academy Award-winning graphic designer, and their product is gorgeous, and that's where they did that. Well, they also got a lot of investment capital. We spent our focused money on data scientists, and we really wanted to make sure that we were doing the math right first, and then we could do as sophisticated as calculations as possible, or at least as we wanted to do for our schools. Or could do for our schools, and still maintain significant statistical significance. And so we spent our money on that. Okay, another difference is that they currently include EdTech, Impact, and IT operations in their base product. You can get data security; it's a separate product. The directors that we work with Atlas said they really wanted data security as the base product, so we included that as well. So that's a difference. Is those three things are included in the base product. This one I'm most excited about, and we worked so hard mathematically to make this work, and I'm so proud of this. I'm so excited about this. Measuring EdTech is hard, and the more we got into it, the more we realized how challenging it is to measure our EdTech impact. And the reality is, part of the reason it's difficult to measure is because my school mission and practices are different than your school missions and practices. And so we wanted our ed tech impact not to be something that was external, but something that really reflected what you care about and what you care about and what you care about, what each different school cares about, but in a standard so that we could still compare and benchmark them against one another. So what we did is we chose a standard that had a lot of research and external validity, that was very broad in its scope. And so we chose the ISTE standards, and we partnered with ISTE on this. And so we chose the ISTE standards, and then we added one more variable, which is academic performance on standardized tests, because I think a lot of schools care about that, and they're bringing in their ed tech to do that. ISTE doesn't have that as one of their standards, and we wouldn't be able to measure and weigh that. We asked schools then on a scale of 1 to 10 to say, relative to your program and mission, how important is global collaborator, digital citizenship, computational thinker, and go through all those ISTE standards and then the academic performance on standardized tests. How important is that to you and your program? And then we have index scores for each of those variables, but we weigh them based on how important you said they were. So when I compare two schools, and maybe one is really values digital citizenship, and the other is more of a STEM school and values computational thinking a little bit more, I can still compare your scores and say, this is how well you're doing with the ed tech that you care about, and here's how well you're doing with the ed tech impact that you care about. And so they're still comparable, but they are still reflective. That variable that we are comparing is still reflective of your mission and values. That's important. Very proud of that. The other thing is, the other tool doesn't have any predictive analytics. And what we wanted to do is we got a lot of data in order to gather that benchmark. How can we use that data to help you figure out where to focus your energies, time, and attention and money to be able to move the needle the most for you? And then the last piece is this is significantly more affordable, which was very important to us. And so we wanted to automate as much as possible so that we could keep the cost down as much as possible. Okay, let's keep moving on. I think I spent a lot of time on that. So I want to show you a little bit of predictive analytics in action. We'll come back to the slides in just a second, but I want to show you Mondo Brain and kind of give you a sense of how we came to understand mathematically some of the predictions that we make. So let me break out of that, pop over here. And Jack, can you confirm for me, you're on mute, but can you confirm for me that you're seeing the dashboard now?
I am.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's look first at, I have to move my thing over a little bit here. So let's say we want to, let's get this. Let's say we're looking at our IT operations and we feel that that's something that we can control and we can improve our IT operations, that we're going to look at service level agreements and various things that we might also have identified for you to improve your IT benchmark. If we move our scores to be more on the right side of this and we go from pretty good to really good, what does that do to like our ed tech benchmarks, for example? The reality is, not a lot. And it's like, well, then does IT operations really impact ed tech? The answer is yeah. But it's one of those threshold questions. So if your IT operations are bad, your poor operations are going to have a very negative impact on your ed tech scores. But once you get to a certain point, then they really don't have too much. So it's a threshold question. So the nice part is we're able to find out where that threshold is. And we're not making a generic statement that says, well, if you improve your IT operations, you're going to have a radical improvement on your ed tech impact. That's only true if you're down here. And so what we're doing is we're looking at some of those things to find some of those differences. Let's look at another example. So we talked about some of the ISTE standards that have impact on your overall IT operations and ed tech impact. And one of the ones that we found most that were strongest, and I think that there's some pretty good reason for this, is innovative designer is one of the new ed tech standards that are out. And we found that if you are a strong performer in innovative designer, your school is also significantly more likely to have strong IT operations as well as ed tech benchmarks. And if you are engaging in problem solving, and there's a lot of pieces of innovative designer that involve problem solving, and we even looked at some of the problem solving pieces that fall outside of the innovative designer, Those students have a higher sense of ownership of their devices, better independent problem-solving skills, and when you have better problem-solving skills, you have a better impression of your IT staff. Why would you have better impressions of your IT staff? Well, because you're only coming to them with the difficult things. If you're a community that has low IT skill sets amongst your community of teachers and students, you're overwhelming your IT staff. But when your community has a higher level of problem-solving skills on their own using technology, whether it be classroom technology or just the IT desktop operation software, you are killing your IT staff. And so we can create some strategies around that. And look at what it also does to your ed tech benchmarks, so that they have really strong performance in that. So that's an area that has a strong impact. The other thing is we wanted to ask some questions that we knew, quite frankly, have been, they're sort of like difficult to measure, but, or we really didn't have a reason to measure this, but we knew that they had some sort of an impact. And I'll show you a real specific one. So we've always kind of known that the teachers who are not happy with IT staff, they're also not likely to try things in the classroom regarding deeper technology integration. And so, because the reality is they don't trust you. If the stuff around me doesn't work, I'm not likely to go try things in the classroom. So the takeaway for you on that one is, if you are focusing your professional development on higher order technology integration, but your local IT needs are not being met, you're not likely to get the impact and return on your investment for that higher level technology integration. I'll show you a specific example. I know those of you who are on here have teachers who complain about their local printer. The printer near me doesn't work, and blah, 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 blah. And you get grumpiness about that. All right, so let's just take the two highest scores. Actually, these represent more than a few people, but only a few schools showed up in this early data set that we gathered as having local printers that teachers liked. And you know what? When the teachers are happy with the tech around them, look at the level of technology integration that is happening. And when those teachers are not happy, and we move this down here, they are not likely to spend time engaging in the higher level technology integration standards. So when you do the TIE assessment, I'll pop back to my slides. When you do the TIE assessment, you don't get access to this, though this is something that you can purchase, but it's kind of expensive, I'm not gonna lie. To get your own version of this, to manipulate the data yourselves, including the training to help you use this, that's about a $12,000 engagement, and most of that is software. So what we tried to do is, we're paying a lot more for that software to use this with all of our people, but we're purchasing this and trying to leverage that purchase across lots of schools, and that ultimately finds ways to lower the cost for you guys. And so let me scoot my slides over again, put this back into presentation mode. But I wanted to show you some of what's going on behind the scenes in the report that we are creating for you, and I'll show you the report in just a few minutes. Okay, so if you do the TIE assessment and you say, okay, this is something I want to do, okay, I know I need to measure this, I know I need to focus my time, energy, and resources, and this looks like a tool that can help me, what do you get out of this? So you get access to the survey tools, and we'll talk about those in just a second. You get access to a report with the benchmark scores of the overall TIE assessment. That's what you'll see at the top of that in the graphic to the right. And then the 3 benchmark scores for EdTech Impact, IT Operations, and Data Security. So you know where you fall relative to your peer schools. And the peer school group that we're working with is Illini Cloud. So if you're a Illini Cloud school, we want to put you in there. If we need to expand that to maybe just Illinois schools, maybe outside of the Illini membership to get the numbers that we need, then we may do that. But we need a benchmark group that we want to compare you to. And so you'll see where you fall relative to the benchmark group that's specified in the report. You'll get district and a school level. You can get a district level report, which is just for all of your schools. And if you'd like, you can get an optional school level report, which particularly if there's differences in demographics, funding, staffing across your different schools, then I'd encourage you to get that. And then you get the analysis and then the specific drivers. And the success drivers are what are the things that you're doing that are really driving your score up? And then from a predictive analytics standpoint, where are the areas that you should target for specific improvement? Jat, you came off mute for a second. Did you have a question you wanted to pop in there?
I know. I was just going to make a comment to the group about how they can find out more information, but I can save that till the end.
Okay, great. And actually, the survey is on there as well. So we'll talk about that as well. But please add your pieces to that at the end as well. And then so you get the report. It's about a 6-page report. The first page is the benchmarks, and then we move into a page apiece for the commendations and recommendations, and then there's sort of a how do I move on to the next steps page of the report as well. You also get 1 hour remote consultation because this is an automated tool. There's only so much we can give you in an automated fashion where we mathematically are confident about the information that we are giving you. And so, but there's more data. And so what we've also put into this is a small block so that our experts can look at your data. And if there's other things that we can significantly glean that we can't automate, but we can do with human analysis, we want to make sure that you get the value of that information too. And so we provide that to you in a short 1 hour remote consultation, short but highly valuable. And then if there's more that you want to dive into beyond that hour, you can. There's charges for that. The reality is the real cost associated with consulting is the human time, right? So what we're trying to do is give you as much as possible without the human time so that we can keep the cost down. And then if you want more, you can have more, but you don't have to pay for it unless you absolutely want it. So that's what we've tried to design for you. Okay, so now it's all right, let's say I'm interested. Let's say this is something I think is valuable for me and I like what I'm going to get. What does this really mean to me? What do I have to do? So you have to gather some data for us. And so to make that as effective as possible, we've developed 3 surveys. There's an admin survey, which is the toughest of them all. That gathers context variables. We want to know about staffing. We want to know about how many student devices you have, admin devices you have, how many servers, what's your bandwidth speed, how many campuses you have, all sorts of context variables that we know impact that we know not only impact the outcome variables, but will also provide us insights as to how you can focus your work. If you already have your ducks in a row and you've already kind of gathered a lot of information, this is only going to take you like half hour to an hour. It's not very hard. If you don't have this information gathered, quite frankly, you probably want it. So it's probably something that you want to spend some time working on anyway. And tech directors have said this really takes about 1 to 4 hours to fill out. Then there's a faculty staff survey, which we designed to be under 20 minutes, but our constituents are reporting that it's taking between 10 and 15 minutes. And then the same thing for the student survey, they're reporting that it only takes 10 to 15 minutes. So we met our goal, which was to really get as much data as we could with as little hit on your school community. 10 to 15 minutes, you can do that in a faculty staff meeting. 10 to 15 minutes for students, you can do that by what we recommend is pick a department that everybody's in, like English or math, where you're going to hit more than 90% of your students, and ask them to say over 2 weeks, try to hit every section and give them a chance to take the survey. That way you can schedule a lab or do what you need to do. And these are computer-based surveys, so we ask you to do them on that. Right now, we're just using SurveyMonkey to gather. It's the most cost-effective way to get it. What we're looking for Illini Cloud Schools to do, because if we want to have the benchmark, we have to have all the data from the benchmark members by a certain date. We want to have that data gathered by October 15th to be included in the benchmark. And thus, we're looking for a confirmed commitment no later than September 15th. That gives you a month to gather that data, which we think is reasonable. And as we ask members at the Illini Cloud Conference, they seem to indicate that that would work for them. Now, in order to make that benchmark accurate and reflective, we really need 60 schools to participate. So that doesn't mean 60 districts, though I will gladly take 60 districts, because again, the more data we have, the higher the fidelity of the recommendation. So we encourage you, if you want to do this and tell your friends to do this. But we really need 60 schools to participate in order to feel like we have the fidelity that we need. So that's how it works. Okay, now, I was a tech director too, so I understand that the question you've probably had in your head the entire time is how much does this cost? So when we did this without TIE, when we did this without the TIE assessment, and we just did direct consulting with schools, and we do probably about 20 or so of these engagements a year. Schools say, how are we doing and what do we need to work on and how do we focus that? When we do this with an individual district, depending upon their size, this is a $35,000 to $120,000 analysis. And 35 is like a school of about 6,000, 120 is a school of about 150,000 students. So it's expensive. I recognize that, and I don't think we can scale with that. So the idea was to say, how can we use math and automation to make this more attainable? And so that's what we did, is design something that can be automated. But automation only comes with data. And so that's why we need lots of people in order to make this work really well. So what we've got now is a district report for what we're going to offer at $1,500. So $1,500 gives you that report that you just saw, and I also provided the Google link so that you can, on the previous slide, so you can go and actually download a PDF of a sample report. So $1,500 is for the district. If you want individual schools and added to that, then you get then those can be added for $500 a school. So if you're a 3-school district, it'd be $3,000, and then you'd have your district level report as well as reports for each of your 3 schools. Now, that's what we're going to be offering to everybody, which we still feel is a very, very strong and competitive offer. And honestly, I don't think I can do it for less, except for the fact that we're still starting. This is a new product, and I really want, and I need, quite frankly, a diversity of schools to participate in that. So we're taking a big hit on this and offering it to Illini Cloud schools this year for $500 at the district level and $250 for each additional school. That's our beg, to get the data that we need to make this really strong so that we can offer it to more people for the $1,500 and $500. So that's the hit on the chin that we're taking. And we wanted to find a district, or not a district, we wanted to find an organization. So why Illini Cloud is I guess, what I want to respond to. Why Illini Cloud for this? Because it is a member community. You're not just a buying consortium. Like, you feel the community when you're at Tech Feast. You guys are schools that are, Illini Cloud is a mission-driven organization that wants to really help its members, and that's what we really need in order to, we're asking for somebody to help us help get this, and so that's why we're coming up with this price, and that's why we're offering it to Illini Cloud. And then the other thing that makes Illini Cloud very interesting to us is that there's a lot of diversity in Illinois. Illinois has big districts, small districts, rural districts, urban districts. You have single school districts, and like just elementary districts and just high school districts. So you have a lot of diversity that states like Iowa or Maryland, for example, simply don't have. And so that's what makes this that's what makes you guys great for this and why we want to do this. But we need help. So here is a quick, and I do mean quick, like 5-question survey. And I want you to, right now, open up a tab, go to the go.gl, and then the Google shortener URL there. And if you're interested, fill it out. I'm not contacting you until the last question says, if you want me to contact you, I'll contact you. Because we're going to push this out on listservs and try to generate as much interest as possible. But I know what it's like when you sign up for something and then a company hounds the crap out of you. Look, I'm not going to be that guy. I was the tech director who sat where you were, trying to avoid those calls so that I could get my job done. So if you're interested, tell me, and I'll make sure that you hear about this so that you can get a little additional information to talk to your superintendent about this and get some buy-in on this. But if you're interested, I'll reach out to you. If you're not, don't worry about it. Just don't put that information in there. But please take this quick survey that tells us whether or not you are interested and the scale at which you are interested in, so that we can use that information to help us kind of gauge whether or not we think we're going to get close to that 60. So thank you. Jat, I want to toss it to you and then also allow people to ask any questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex, for taking us through this. This is my second time, or maybe 2.5 times through this presentation. It gets better and better every time. So, I learned something new with each go around. But thank you again for taking us through this. And at this point, I'll open the floor for any questions. Going once, going twice. All right, great. Well, again, Alex, thank you so much. As we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, this will be is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on the Illini Cloud YouTube channel. So I think everyone's pretty familiar with YouTube. Just go out there, type in Illini Cloud, and you'll get the channel that has, of course, this webinar and all the previous webinars recorded to date. With that, thank you again, Alex, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you very much, Jet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.